Okay, I am now at a point where I'm either going to make this cuter or I'm going to ruin it. Which do you think it's going to be? Well, hi, you guys. Hey, no, I'm not always in my basement studio. Anyway, today I have a really cute video for you. I'm going to give you 3 ways to make a card, to personalize it for your friend, for your mom, for your sister, for yourself maybe. And this is really kind of cool because it's a really easy card for beginners. It's just a fun little layout, and I will show you the 3 versions right now. So here's the first one. It's a really fun little hello or I'm thinking of you kind of card, and then we do it a couple different ways. Here's just a really sweet balloon heart. I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh, maybe I should tell you, I'm Ronnie Walter. I'm an illustrator and artist, and I love teaching people how to make lighthearted, fun, easy art, just to make someone's day or just make your own. So let's get started on this fun little tutorial. I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, feel free to like and subscribe, and I love your comments. They mean the world to me. So enjoy. Okay, today's project is going to be really cute, and I'm going to show you 3 different ways how to make it, because frankly, we might get bored with doing the same thing over and over, so it's always fun to mix things up and make it more personalized. I have cut from a bigger stash of paper 3 4x5 pieces. That is the Dick Blick watercolor paper. It's cold press, but has a harder surface than most cold press, so it takes marker really well. Because you know, I love me some line and watercolor. Today, I'm going to use a thinner marker than I have used in previous videos, and this is a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen. It is waterproof, India ink, maximum light fastness, and I like, anyway, there we go. Acid free, and so I'm just reading this off here. I don't know this by heart. And it's a 0.1. It has a really nice, very thin line, and it's just really nice line. Make sure if you're going to use marker with your watercolor that it is waterproof, because you will be crying your eyeballs out if you smear your marker with your watercolors. Not that I know anything about that. Graphite pencil and eraser. And then I have 2 brushes that you've seen me use before. They're my faves. I don't know what I'm going to do if these wear out. I guess I'll get new ones, but I don't know if they make them anymore. This one is a number 8 round. It's from Artist Loft, which is Michael's hobby stores here in the United States. I think they're in Canada as well. And then this Best is number 10 round, and that is a brand from Jerry's Artorama. I'm pretty sure they have closed their stores, but they are online. They always have really good prices. I also have a very inexpensive little spritzer water bottle and my paints. This is my main palette, and most of these are tube paints that I've put in here and let dry, so they act as like a pan paint. Most of them are Blick Studio's private label, which they don't make anymore, but these will last me for like, I don't know, 5 years. And then I have a couple of Windsor Cotman, because Blick doesn't make their own paints anymore. So those I have as well. Then I have my secondary palette, because I ran out of spaces on that one, for a couple extra greens. This Cobalt Blue, this is Cerulean Blue, but for some reason, I don't like it. I normally use the Cobalt or Ultramarine in the other one because I like the clarity of those. Okay, so today's project, where's my little paper? You know, you guys, I always draw in pencil or with watercolor pencil on my paper, and it's really hard for the camera to pick up. But this is basically the layout we're going to do. This arm coming in from the side of the card and holding a big giant flower, and you could put thank you or hello or miss you. I'm sorry, you know, if we did something that requires that. Again, we're human. And so you might be making an I'm sorry card. And so we want to leave room to do that. You can even move this up. I'm going to do it in 3 different ways so you can personalize it. And so I'm going to draw this onto the paper, but that's what it's going to look like. So the first thing I will do is I'm taking my pencil. I'm kind of eyeballing off of this. You could draw it on paper and then trace it if you like. Here's a thing. Some materials, some technology has really come down in price. And when I first started illustrating 150 years ago, I had this giant light table, and it was, I don't know, took up half the size of my desk, and it lit up, and you traced on it because that's what we did back in the olden days. And it was about $300. And I just bought something online. I don't have that anymore because it was such a beast and I didn't need it. I have a small one because every once in a while I need to trace something onto paper. And it was like about $15 for this lovely little USB plug-in little light box. It was fantastic. And it was like $15. So some things are better. Okay, so I'm going to just freehand draw this. So I'm just making half a circle. And you know, I like my odd numbers, so I'm putting on 5 petals. I'm just going to draw where the stem is going to be and a couple of giant leaves. Because in this design, I am going to do the line work first and then watercolor afterwards. Now the hand, you might find the hand to be a little challenging, but just practice on a separate piece of paper. And so I'm just going to do 3 kind of blobby fingers. And then I'm going to have my pinky come out because that's cute. And then the thumb is kind of a little curvy deal. So there you have a hand. It's intentional that it's cartoony. And then I'm going to add a little cuff and this sleeve that's going to come out. So it's just this really sweet way of shoving a flower in someone's face. Okay, so I'm going to draw this with the ink, or with the pen now. And as you know, let me get this out of the way. I just dive right in. And I don't worry about being super precise. If you're super precise, it looks more cartoony. If you use a lighter, looser hand, it looks more artistic. It doesn't look like it was made by a machine, for one thing. And also, it just gives a really lovely hand-drawn look. So it's okay. And the other thing is, if you're trying to do one big solid line, invariably you'll screw that up and it will just be frustrating. So I'm just going to loosely draw these petals in with my pen. And I think with this finer pen, I like to do that second line. And so yeah, that's great. And then I'm going to come in and just do these little lines because I think that adds a little something, something to the design. Does it look really cute? Kind of gives it just really loose, casual look. Okay, now you have to, when you're going to make this stem, some fingers are going to be behind, and some fingers are going to be in front. So I'm going to carefully go down here with this little stem, and then I'm going to put in my first blobby finger. They're really just elongated ovals, and you don't want them necessarily all at the same angle. And then the pinky is hanging out there, and then the stem is going to continue because that's going to be behind the pinky. Sometimes you just have to remind your brain to do things like that. Okay, and then the thumb, I have found the thumb is the thing that sometimes ruins for me. Is this a fantastic hand? No, it isn't. Do we care? It's kind of the attitude we're looking for, not the anatomical correctness. And then I'm just going to take that straight out to the edge. Add a couple of buttons, and then we'll put in our leaves. And you can do some little line inside the leaves. I'm going to come in with that little line there. And just add those little lines. And there you have the basic card. Then we get to go in and make it cute with the paint. So it's kind of a wonky hand. I think it's really cute. Most people are going to be looking at the entire overall area of it and not thinking, well, that's not exactly what a hand looks like. Sure, it's a little chunky down at the bottom, and it's still cute. It's still very cute. Okay, now I've let that dry long enough. You always want to give it at least maybe 30 seconds before you start aggressively erasing. I do not recommend aggressive erasing. Just a really light touch to get those pencil marks off. And there you have it. Then we can start painting. Now I'm going to show you the other two variations before we start painting. Okay, the other two variations, one, it's just going to be a different kind of flower. And we're just going to do a really kind of wonky rose. And roses normally have like a little thing like that. You might want to do your friend's favorite flower. Again, these 3 fingers plus that, the blobby thumb. That looks pretty, that looks kind of masculine. Here, we're just going to fix that a little bit. It doesn't matter if it's masculine. There we go. There. And sometimes you can fix it when you are. So I'm just going to make this have more of a blouse type thing. And we'll pattern this. So there's your second flower. And how long did that take us? No time. Except that we haven't done the line work yet. So again, I'm just going to make a really, it's a spiral. It's kind of an elongated spiral. So that's my rose, and I'll come in again. In our home, my husband does all the gardening. So he knows plants. I do not. I just consult on that. I go, that's pretty. I like that. So I'm going to come in and do these oval type fingers. Bring the stem down because it's behind the pinky. And come back with the thumb. And then we're going to make this kind of lacy. And give it some stitch. Not every line has to be solid. And then we'll come in with kind of the rose type leaf. You can also add other leaves. We'll add another one down here. And another one here, just for more interest. Okay, there's version number 2. We will erase that in a second. And then the third one we're going to do, completely different, but not, is we're going to make it a balloon. So this thing, you could be holding an ice cream cone, you could be holding a popsicle, you could be holding any number of things, but we're going to do a heart-shaped balloon. So you'll see this better when it's, so we're going to do the same thing, even though and on this one, I'm just going to do an arm. I'm not going to have, that hand will get better when I draw it, but I'm going to add a bracelet with another heart on it. So this might be a little more of a romantic card. And hopefully this will work out when I do the line work. If not, you'll see this big edit where I do it again. And then you'll know that I did it again. And you know, here's the thing. With this kind of loose, easy attitude with these things, do another one. There are no rules here. There are no watercolor police looking over your shoulder. It's just us. It's just us. And wherever you start, you start. Okay, there, we're going to do these oval fingers. I'm going to put that pinky in. And on this one, since we're just doing a string, I'm not going to worry about what's in front and what's behind, because that string's just going to come down here. It's not going to be painted anything. Yeah, that looks like a terrible thumb, but we'll draw it better. There. Let's put a little curve in there. Bracelet with a heart on the bottom. And you know what? Actually, I am going to add a sleeve, because that will give us an opportunity to put some color in there. I always like to know when you can put some color in. Okay. So now we have 3 versions. So let me erase this one. And erase this one. And I just want to tell you, as you guys know, I work in the basement. Really lovely basement, but still a basement. And sometimes you can hear my husband walking around upstairs because we have a 100-year-old house and it has squeaky floors. There you go, if you're wondering what that noise is. Okay, so now we have our 3 cards, and now we can start painting them. Okay, I will come back with the pen. Okay, let's start painting. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my little pieces out of the way. And I'm using my spray bottle to spritz my paints, just to activate the watercolor. Just give them a little spritz. I will do my other palette. I don't know if I'll use all those, but they will be ready for when I do. The other thing I'm going to do is, when I spritz for the camera, sometimes I get water on my little pad, and I don't want my watercolor paper to get wet on the back side. Okay, so here's where we're going to start. Let's start with the first one we did. The other thing I always have by my side is a scrap piece of paper in the same paper that I am using. And this is where I test my colors and test my ink and everything like that. So I'm just going to start coming in. The other thing you cannot see in the view here is I have 2 jars of paint, I have 2 jars of water. One that I will swish out my brush to get the paint out of, and one that I keep clean for when I'm going to mix paint, because I want clean water. So you have a dirty water and a clean water. And don't get them mixed up with your coffee, because then you'll have, coffee that tastes like watercolor. I don't think it's toxic. But why take the chance? Okay, so I'm going to do this daisy with a nice strong yellow. So one other thing, when you use watercolor, you go from your pile of paint to the palette to your paper. If you go right from your paint to the paper, it can get gummy. You won't get a good puddle of paint. You won't get it activated particularly well. So you want to make sure that you're building your puddle that you're going to work off of out of your palette. And you can buy really inexpensive. Dollar store has little palettes. If you don't have a palette like this, just do that, or on a dinner plate. Paper plates don't work because they're absorbent, but you can use any kind of porcelain type plate. White, of course, is the best, because then you can see your color. Okay, having said that, so I'm going to get a little orange activated here. So I'm using that same yellow, and I'm going to add a little bit of this permanent red to make a nice orange. And this is where I'm going to test things. So, yeah, I need a little more pigment in there. Oh yeah, that's a pretty orange. Gonna add a little more yellow just to get some saturation. Ooh, pretty. And then I can check to make sure that my pure yellow is enough contrast to the orange. Can you see that? I think that's pretty good. So, with confidence, I'm just going to lay this yellow down. And I like the overhang. Again, paint is paint, coloring is coloring. And we want to know that it's paint. You're not trying to just fill in the color. Otherwise, we would just use coloring books, which of course I'm a fan of because I design a lot of them. So I'm just going to let that dry and let those 2 colors merge, and it's going to be really cute. Then I'm going to come in, because when you're working in watercolor, you want to make sure you're not putting wet near a color you don't want to bleed. So I can go to the greens right now. So I am going to go in and, actually, you know what? I am going to use two different greens, but I want the first one to be kind of this bright limey green. So I'm using this lemon yellow. I think this is permanent green light, maybe? Golly, maybe I should put that in the description. Do you guys want to know the exact colors? Let me know in the comments. Okay, ooh, that's pretty. Okay, so we're gonna hit a little more green to that. And we're just gonna come in. And you know, gotta make a commitment when you paint. Being tentative has no place in watercolor. Okay. I'm going to let that dry for like a second because I want to go in and put in a second green. And I had previously mixed this. This is something from my other palette plus that brighter green. So I want some contrast on that bottom section. Boom. Done. And let it do its thing. You can always use your brush as sort of a vacuum cleaner to bring up some of that excess. And here's the other thing. If you do feel like you have too much on the paper, like maybe that is a little too much overhang for your taste, come in with a clean brush, get it wet, like build a little bit of water on there, and you can kind of start sucking it up. A little vacuum action, and you can get a fair amount up. Doesn't bother me, but might bother you. But you can do that, and sometimes you can do it a couple of times and get more of it off. Depends on how long it's been there. It depends on the quality of your paper. Depends on your tolerance for overhanging watercolor, which I have very wide tolerance for that. So, but that's how you can do it if you go, I don't really like that. There are ways to do that. And then I'm going to come in, and this is the beauty of a okay, better than okay brush, and this is not an expensive brush. I'm sure it was $8 or $9. Is you can get a nice point. Mine's probably a little bendy because everybody's brushes kind of bend to their will after a while. It's like your lipstick. You know, people put it on an angle or straight. Okay, so I just hit that really subtly. Okay, now I'm going to come in. I'm going to make this sleeve blue, but I'm going to use a fairly light blue because I want to come in and stripe it afterwards, after it dries. So we're going to come in and, again, with conviction, add that blue, and I'm going to mop it up a little bit. Now, I have found some of these paints, and that's a Windsor Newton. This is why you don't want to erase too heavily. I am getting a little texture in there. I could have erased too heavily. It's also a blob of water. I think when that dries, it's going to be better. And since I already have intended to stripe that, I think we're good. I'm going to let this one dry a bit and come back with the skin tone because we're going to have to do something different on that. Okay, so we're moving on to this one. You can see some pencil on there that we want to gently erase. Okay, so for this one, you remember your watercolor has its own qualities. So I'm going to come in, this is a Quinacridone Red, which is a very lovely pink color. Gotta move this guy out of the way, coming back, and that's really pretty. I'm going to add a little more pigment to give it a little more oomph, a little more presence on there. Yeah, ooh, lovely. And then I'm going to use a warmer red, and I want those two things to marry up. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a cool little thing. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my pink, and I'm going to do a really nice commitment to that heart. Mop up a little bit, come back with my red. And let those two do their thing. Very cute. And then I'm just gonna make that a red heart. Okay, what color should we make her sleeve? How about that cute, since we don't have leaves on here, a green would be a nice little option, and we'll probably stripe that later too. We're just gonna commit, boom, there. Wow, this is looking really cute, you guys. All right, and then we have our third one, which is the rose. And you know, my mother was a big fan, I think it's called a peace rose. It's kind of a peachy color. So we're gonna make a puddle of this warmer red. I don't want it too, where should we go with that? Let's bring a little puddle over here. Get some of that clean water in there. And bring in some of this warm yellow. I'm looking for a coral kind of color. Sometimes you got to play around a little bit. That's getting closer. Because I don't want it to read yellow. What do I want in there? No, I kind of like that with the warm red. Again, if we don't like it, what do? We do it over. Okay, so I'm going to make the center be that sort of peachy color. And then I'm going to come in all the way around it with the red. Okay, you guys. I like that. I think that's really pretty. Really loose. That's going to dry really pretty. So I'm going to vacuum up a little. I'm getting some glare on my... Oh, I like that. I like that. And if we wanted to later, when it dries, you could come in and make it more of a shadow, which we'll try and see if that works. If it doesn't, we will not be sad. We will be happy. Okay. Relative to, this is part of the personalization. And you get to decide the skin tone. So, okay, I'm gonna get another scrap piece of paper because we gotta work on skin tones. And this is tricky. Now, I do have a cheaper set of paints that just has a basic brown, and you can do, you know, lighter, darker, and just do the brown. You can add a little red to it, a little yellow, depending on the skin tone you're after. But we're gonna mix it from real. Okay, so you know about contrasting colors. And I'm not gonna do a big color theory thing because this is not the video for that. I'm just gonna do a quick demonstration of how to get a neutral color. I'm using this Cerulean blue. You want a little blue. Because contrasting colors, you know, things across the color wheel from each other will kind of gray things down. And then I'm gonna bring in this yellow. Okay, we just made green. That is not a color of skin tone. So we're gonna bring in a lot more of that yellow. Sometimes you just have to start adding color. And then I'm gonna use a little bit of the warmer red. Okay, now we're getting a little more skin tone-y, depending on the color of your skin. So I'm going to commit to this one for this first one. So I think this is nice. We're just going to hit that little hand really loosely. Okay. I think that works fine. On this one, we're going to add a little more red, a little more yellow. And I don't have to mix up much. That's a little red. Kind of running out of paint. I'm going to add a tiny bit of blue. Okay, that's giving us a different shade than the other one. I like that one. Let's go there. And use the vacuum method. I'll probably come in, possibly, and make some shadows under there, depending on what kind of color paint. So right now we have two different colors, skin tones. And on the third one, let's just make slightly darker. I'm gonna add a little more blue. And part of it is sometimes just adding more pigment to get a stronger color. I think we're just gonna add just a lot more. That's way too red. More blue. More red. This is how you do this. It's not very scientific. I'm sure there are videos on how to build skin tones. That feels a little... I'm going to add some yellow to that. And see if we get a nice... more red. I'm stuck on this one. Okay, so I think that's a nice rich color. So we'll go in there with that color. And we'll probably come in and do some shadows on this one as well. Okay, there you go. So now we're going to come in and do some fun things, which is, let's start with the first one. I hope you're not getting vertigo or anything from me flipping these around. And I'm going to use, I have a huge puddle of this Phthalo Blue. I'm going to activate that. And I didn't do a test on there. Well, I'm just going to commit. So here's how to do a stripe. You know, you want the point on your, and I'm sorry, this is really bendy, but I know how to use this one. But you just kind of come in and just, again, just drag it across. Drag it across. And then as shirts go, they always, those go that way on the cuffs. And then I'm going to suck that up a little bit. This one's about done. I think we could call this one done. I think this is really cute. No, I'm going to do a little shadow on there. And that has, so I'm just gonna, here's how we're gonna do the shadow. We're just gonna hit the bottoms as if the light hit it. Can you see that? Okay. Now I would call this one done, except for later putting in some sort of a greeting on here. So there's our first one, and you can choose whatever greeting you like. This did get a little too centered on here. I prefer it up, but you know what you can do? Here's the cheating way. Cut off the top. Doesn't really matter whether you started out with the page the size that you wanted. Just cut off the top to make it, you know, to mess around with your layout. It's okay. We won't tell anyone. Okay, so that one is finished. Let's go to our rose. And we're going to come in with, I do want to, kind of contaminated my red over here. You didn't see that. I'm going to bring up a little more of that red. I don't want it too strong because I want to put a little shadow under here. So we're just going to hit that like that. just to give it a little bit of dimension, not a lot. So now that I did that, I can't do my greens like I thought I would. So let's go over to our little heart balloon. And I'm going to come in with a darker shade of green. And we're going to stripe this one again too, because that is cute. Just some nice white stripes. Okay. Oh my gosh. That's really cute. And then, because we ignored this little part of the bracelet, I'm going to make it gold. So there's her little bracelet, and I'm also going to give shadows under this hand as well. And I'm just using that darker puddle of paint we used to make a shadow. Now the other thing we can do with this one, because it's a balloon, we want it to make it look balloon-like. No, that's not my favorite. This is my favorite white pen. It's the Uniball Signo White. And I know that we've all used any number of white paint pens that are really frustrating and clog up. The jelly rolls are famous for that. I found this one to work pretty well. So let's go back to our little cheat sheet here and see if we can get a nice white on there. Okay, so this has got some gummy. Okay, that's pretty white. I'm gonna wipe it off. Maybe it's got. Okay, let's test that. Yeah, for some reason I'm getting some weird line in there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in and just hit this balloon with a highlight so it looks balloon-like. Same here. Maybe a little highlight there. So that just gives it just tiny little marks. You don't want to overdo that so that it looks reflective. Okay, so again, if you want to add white, super cute. Actually, you know what would be cute? Okay, I'm now at a point where I'm either going to make this cuter or I'm going to ruin it. Which do you think it's going to be? But I thought it might be cute. Normally with this kind of like a daisy-ish thing, I would use black marker and just make dots. Let's do white on here as an extra little something, something. Okay, I did not ruin it. I think that added something to that that is really cute. It may not pick up on camera really well, but I think that's really cute. Okay. Glad I didn't ruin it. So we're back here, and since I still want to let that shadow dry a little bit, I'm going to go in and add a little decoration on this blouse. So I'm adding just a tiny bit more blue to the grape Kool-Aid purple I made. Yeah, that's pretty. And I'm just going to polka dot this. And what do we know for sure? Everything improves with polka dots. Oh my gosh. It's just so cheerful. And I love cheerful artwork. Okay, so now these are, I just made those blobs, so I'm going to go in and vacuum those up. And I use a tissue as my absorbent accessory. Or is that absorbing accessory? And you can, in personalization with this, you can really do some fun things. Like if you always wear a certain bracelet, or you have a favorite shirt that your friend would recognize, that's where you can really have fun with this. And, you know, skin tone, a bracelet, something like that can really personalize it in a subtle way. Okay, I'm going to go back to this brighter green. I think I can take the risk of, yes, yay. No bleeding into the other color. I'll come into that. And then I'm going to use a darker green, because why shouldn't we? Okay, just hit that. Do the vacuum and let it do its thing. Hoover it up. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and make a darker color, darker than that skin tone, and come in and do that shadow. Okay. Well, look what we did. Look what we just did. And so here's the lesson, except for let's make the world cute, is that with very few variations, we just made 3 really cute cards. You could do these. You could do a lot of these, and I plan on it. So it's really cute. What would also be cute, like for Valentine's, if you had her holding 2 balloons, that would be really cute, or Mother's Day or something like that. Or you could have her have 3 blossoms in her hand. And so I just think it's a really cute way to send somebody a message or to make some cute art. And frankly, drawing humans and the human figure is really hard, but we can all master these blobby hands, I think. I mean, I like some of them more than others, but if you didn't see them all together, you go, that's really cute. And most people are not looking at the individual things. They're looking at the essence that you sent to them and the essence that's in the painting. So, having said all that, I hope this was fun for you. Let me know in the comments if you are trying any of these, or how you, what I'd really like to know is how you personalized them. That would be really fun. And if you have any questions, throw those in the comments as well. Of course, I would love it if you liked and subscribed to these videos. And, you know, you can always put an alert onto that little bell thing if you want an alert on the next video that's coming out. And I'm posting every week. Every Wednesday a new video comes out, and I'd love to know what else you are interested in learning how to paint. So having said that several times, have fun today, and I hope you find a little moment for creativity for yourself. It is awesome. Thanks so much. Bye.